All right, hello. Welcome to September 16th, 2022. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily good life meditation video. I make this video each and every morning to think about my life objectives and principles. I also then compare these and check how I did applying these to the last 24 hours and also plan for the coming day. So let's get started. First, last night and yesterday, another good night of sleep. It's becoming a habit. I can't remember the last time that I was lay awake very long before the alarm, although I did get up a little bit. Last night, it seems like every time I get up now is mostly related to the fact that I have to make a biology stop, and then I linger for a little bit, but then I go back to sleep. It must be the melatonin or the fact that things are going better at work. I think it might be a combination of both. But it feels good, and I feel better as a result. Although this has been a tough week, definitely. Made tougher still by the fact that Emily's car broke. My daughter's car broke down yesterday. Fortunately, she's safe. It broke down in her school, in the parking structure. I'm pretty sure it's the 12-volt battery's gone dead. It's a Prius, so it's got the big battery, and then it's got the little 12-volt battery. So when this is done, I'm going to head off down there. I took the day off from work. It's a Friday, so I took the day off from work. I'm going to go down and take care of her car and do what I can. If I need to, I'll have it towed into the shop and get it repaired. But I think it's just the 12-volt battery, in which case AAA has a service. They'll come out, do a check, and replace the battery if necessary. So there's that. Then what's next? Yesterday, just another real solid day of work. I chose to work from home yesterday. I think I'm going to mix it up. I think I'm going to start working at home on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and just go into the office Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Yeah, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. And anyway, Yumiko and I have a lot to do ahead of us. We need to find a place to live or decide if we're going to stay here. So we have an appointment tomorrow morning to look at a senior citizen apartment complex. I'm actually looking forward to that. I kind of hope we'll move into the senior apartment place. I think I'd enjoy that. If anything, for the experience of living with a lot of seniors. I'm interested in old age. And now that I'm on the threshold myself, it's all the more compelling. Let's do the good life. My 7 objectives are as follows. 1, to be always ready to die. To have my life affairs, my finances, my family, my relations, my friends, and my life's work in order. I believe I do. 2, to make good and effective use of my time. To not waste my time or days or nights, but to do worthwhile, virtuous ends. Worthwhile activities towards virtuous ends. Let's say it that way. 3, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. To continue work on this good life creed. To tinker with it, to add, subtract, and improve. 4, to cultivate good emotional reactions. To become someone who reacts well to the world around me. And I believe I have become that person. It's pretty hard to fluster me anymore. 5, to perform good actions, just to do good things throughout the day. Little things, big things, medium-sized things too. 6, to recognize my true limits and my true opportunity, and to apply apathy to those things which are outside of the scope of my control. And reach. And 7, to do just one thing at a time, and to do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully, and to never multitask. All right, now my 32 principles. Principle number 1 is war. To always be fighting against what I think is true and any new propositions of truth that come my way. 2, reason, and the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, doubt, and humiliation. To be honest with myself and others. To be objective in my view. a fierce skeptic and ready to recognize that when I've been humiliated by being wrong, that's an advantage that I'm seeing through my folly to a clearer light. Next is reason. I just did that one. And next is the homunculus. The suggestion that if I do not have a soul, which I don't think I have, I don't think any of us do, all I have is this little consciousness, which is seemingly an emergent property of the electrical storm going on in my skull. And it will be with me while I live, and then wink out and go to darkness, blankness when I die. Then comes the Anchorhold. The Anchorhold is a conceptualization of the weathering of life that my homunculus must suffer, like a man stuck on a rock in the sea when the waves crash and the wind blows and the sun burns. And eventually the man will fall in the water and die. That's my fate. That's your fate. Each of us on our own separate rock, ultimately, always quite alone. No one can ever get on another person's rock, just as I can never get in your skull. Likewise, nor you mine. Then comes the home of good and evil. Right and wrong do not exist out in the universe at large. They're not chiseled on any stones. They simply exist as opinions that we have in our minds about what we perceive to be the avenues towards well-being. Opinions, subjective then, at their core. Next comes the atomic. Did I do purpose? Purpose. And there are three sub-principles. Biology, which I use that word just to describe the mandate to reproduce, to have a child and to see that children to adulthood. A very worthwhile end, at least having one kid. It's a good thing for a lot of reasons, even though there's plenty of us. 2, virtue, to be a virtuous man, doing things to help improve the well-being of thinking creatures. 3, purpose. My purpose is to share the Good Life Creed, the thing that I've developed out of my effort of going alone. So I share my book, Going Alone, available on Amazon. I recommend the hardbound copy the best. You can also get a signed copy if you go to my website, goingalone.org, and buy it from there, and then I'll sign it. Next principle is atomic principle. Everything is made of bits and pieces. All of it's falling to pieces. And that's good to keep in mind, because this lattice structure that's me will soon not be me. It'll be just ashes to ashes and dust to dust. Next comes the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature, and it's good to recognize what that is, so we can, if not abide it, at least we can recognize what it is and not be surprised when things behave according to their nature, or things transpire according to their nature, the nature of the world. And then after that comes maturity. No, I always do that. I always stumble here. The pirate ride, the idea that free will is an illusion. I don't think we're free. I don't think that I'm making the choices that I think that, it feels like I'm making the choices that I make. I choose to raise, as I always use my hand, I choose to raise this hand versus that hand at these particular moments. But really, it's the universe at large. I'm not making these choices in a vacuum. I'm not making these choices all alone. The universe is doing its thing and driving my decisions to a far greater degree than any motive will that might emanate from me. Any motive will that I have simply abides the path of seeming least resistance, just as water flows downhill. So I can't prove it, because I can't get in a time machine and go back and write one things again, but I strongly suspect that free will is an illusion, which is a curious thing, and I only hardly believe it. But more and more I'm coming to believe it. It doesn't, it doesn't rob me of my volition, but it does seem to rob me of, to a degree, of my sense of responsibility for that seeming willfulness. Yet it does not cause me to surrender my responsibility. That's a curious thing. I still feel responsible for the choices that I make, even though I don't think that they're necessarily mine, or even a little bit mine. Although clearly the choices wouldn't be made if I didn't exist, so there's that. A wrinkle. Okay, now comes the principle called maturity, which has, I think, 3 or 4 sub-principles. The sub-principles are wisdom, fortitude, or 3 sub-principles. Wisdom and fortitude, and I think it's prudence. Let's take a look. So all of these, the Good Life Creed, all of these objectives and principles are listed in my book. So I can look things up. Wisdom, fortitude, and integrity. See, it's right there. And then a description of the principle. Yes, wisdom, fortitude, and integrity. Maturity, we are mature when we wisely remember our past successes and failures, have the fortitude to do better, and the integrity and the consequent and resulting integrity of when our actions match our values and our best aims. Next is the social principle. We're social creatures. We need each other, and our best ends are social ends. And there are 4 sub-principles here. These are, I can't remember them. I know there's small words. I think that's the first one, to use vocabulary that's suitable. It doesn't mean they have to be small, but suitable, best words for the circumstance. Don't be highfalutin when you don't. And cultivate a good vocabulary in one's life, but then use the words appropriately. Small words. Diplomacy. I think that's another one, right? Is that right? Of course, I can't remember. No, that was confusing that with public speaking. Social principle is diplomacy, justice, and conspiracy. Diplomacy, because it's the political sense, right? It's like balancing our aims with others and finding compromise. Justice is being social, circulating in social spheres in such a way as to try to encourage justice in the world. We can do that in our ways. And then conspiracy means working together with others towards these better ends. Then comes public speaking. That's got the 4. And public speaking is just a suggestion towards better communication. This is where I'm talking about the small words. I got ahead of myself before. And these sub-principles are small words, prudence, rumor, and gossip. Small words is just using the right words, as like I said before, in the moment. Prudence is being careful to construct our speaking and our writing to be in accord with our values. And then rumor and gossip, those are things I don't trade in. I don't share rumor that might not be advantageous. That's like more like a, sometimes you can trade a rumor that might be useful. Like, rumor has it. Rumor has it that we're going to war. I mean, maybe that kind of rumor. Rumor has it they're laying off everybody in accounting, or half the people in accounting. I mean, that sounds a little bit like gossip, but you know what I mean, right? Sometimes there's rumor. Rumor has it that, no, that's gossip. So why is this is where doing this thing is helpful, right? It causes me to shine a light on all sides of things. So why is it that rumor is bad? I guess rumor is bad when it turns into gossip, Where gossip, the difference is that gossip is when you're talking particularly about somebody else. Rumor doesn't necessarily involve that. For example, at work right now, there's a rumor going around, right? We all work from home. There's a rumor going around that they might be calling us all back to the office, and it's causing a lot of upset. That's what I mean. And I've heard from senior management that that's not going to be the case. That they want to, as the word I heard used was a great word, was codify the current status quo. Great phrase I heard. Speaking of appropriate words, and that was from an executive. So, in spending time to pass the rumor, which is what we do to fill the time, that they're going to take us back, serves nobody's good end, right? I mean, it's not founded on any good reason. So that's what I mean. Yeah, I think I've got that. So public speaking. Okay, now it comes a series of, I think it's 4 or 5 that go together. Some of these, I align these principles in some cases to work as a team. So there's temperance is one principle, the next principle, then a principle called life will not go well, and then another principle called the horror show, and then another principle called that which must be borne, and then the last one is the Feast of Offal. So it's a 5er. Let's go through these. Okay, temperance. I don't think I need the book. Temperance is our controlled consumption of everything, for our work, our play, our food, drink, communications, everything that we do. Simply just moderation in all things. And the 2 sub-principles there are suffering and simplicity. We suffer when we temper our living. And a temperate life, a simple life, is a temperate life. The next principle that builds on that one is life will not go well. This is simply this is not a descent into pessimism. This is simply a recognition that life is going to have difficulties. There will be circumstances that will challenge us. Like right now, my daughter's car being stranded at Cal State Fullerton is a perfect example of that, right? I mean, just out of the blue, my daughter calls me up and says the car won't start, and so I've got to step in as dad and take care of that, right? So life will not go well, and I expect those things to happen. And in fact, I kind of rehearse it every morning. I'll do that in just a second in an absolute sense. You'll see. The next principle is called the horror show. This is an extension of life will not go well to the nth degree, to the extreme. The idea being that life will not go well, but sometimes it will go well to a horrifying degree. I mean, like absolute scary stuff. So I take a moment when I get to this point, and I do Epictetus, the great Roman Stoic philosopher. Once he would describe, he has an exercise where he would kind of ask us to think about the worst case scenarios, not to dwell upon it, but to then ask ourselves to do 2 things: to remember that those things happen, and to ask ourselves, were we exempt from such things, so that we can build our apathy and be prepared to maintain our stoic sense in the face of what I call the horror show. It's toughest when I involve my family. It's tough when I involve my pets. It's a little easier when it's just me. So I'll focus on me this morning. Yesterday I involved the family. So I could find out tomorrow, or maybe on Saturday or Monday, that I've lost my job. I'm a new employee where I work, even though I worked there before. I'm back, and so I'm under probation, so they could let me go in a moment's notice. I mean, no different than working for the private sector, right? So I mean, it's the type of thing that on the public sector, once you're past probation and you're more secure by virtue of your union employment, you get union association. You get used to that, but I don't have that advantage right now, and it's possible that they could tell me that I've lost my job. They don't want me anymore. What a bind that would be. That would be a bad state of things. Now, I could take this into 2 directions. I could take it through the badness into the goodness, because there is a happy ending to that if I wanted. I can find a happy ending in, because I am qualified for a pension at this point, and Yumiko and I we would simply have to get Emily. I do have a college fund that I haven't touched yet, and that would help her out. but she'd have to get a student loan to finish off some of her school, and then Yumiko and I would just retreat back to the countryside. That's not the purpose of this endeavor, though. I'm not here to find a happy ending. It would be tough in the short end. I wouldn't be able to get by. It's very expensive here, and what we've got wouldn't last long, because I'm awful at planning. I'm awful at keeping a nest egg. So that would be pretty bad, but this is not doing the trick. It's got to be the type of thing, you got to go to the level where it slaps you in the heart, in the face, and it stings you, and it throws your head back. Talking about getting cancer and dying, burning up in the car with a car accident. You know, that's what does it. But I hate going there every day, and I feel it now. Bam, slap in the face. Damn, it evokes profanity out of me. I want to say bad words. And I know that I'm in the right direction when I want to say bad words. Damn it. Okay, that's close enough to the edge. I've only started doing this for about a week since I only started reading the Discourses of Epictetus 2 weeks ago, and I realized, hey, that would be a useful thing to do in the Good Life meditations and how I do it. But it's really hard, but it's really good. Okay, let's move on. Bye. Get past the bad words. Let's move on. Moving on from the horror show. After that comes a principle called that which must be borne. And what we have to bear is the fact that things will not go well, and the fact of the horror show. We also have to bear the hard effort and labors of our lives. I just finished reading this morning before I made this video, Rambler number 12 from Dr. Samuel Johnson, written in 1750. In this case, it was Dr. Johnson including an essay by a young woman come to London from after her family's fall from fortune in the countryside, seeking her fortune and being, excuse me, she relates one anecdote after another. She's nearly brought to life in the streets, likely to prostitution. We don't know the end of the story. That is sufficient enough of a horror show. I just uploaded that video, so Rambler number 12, if you want to have a listen. That's sufficient of a horror show. And I was talking about this with regard to that which must be borne. She has a lot to bear. Or I had 250 years ago. 270? Yeah. So the next principle is after that which must be borne is the Feast of Offal. That's what happens when we get upset and blow our upset into the world. Blah, gosh damn the gosh dang. and mostly make our family and friends upset. We don't typically do that in public. I don't do that at work. Although I remember one friend of mine, a coworker, who did that at work one day. Put his hand through the wall. That's the Feast of Offal. And I used to do it. I used to get upset in front of my wife. You know, kind of blow up. She didn't know when that would happen. Emily saw a little bit of that, and I finally got that under control. It was when I realized that I was, that's when it was an eye-opener to me, when I saw the look in my young daughter's eyes, and holy crap, what am I doing? I mean, I wasn't violent, but I would get upset and blow up. It was mostly just kind of like a tantrum, sharing up my upset of the world. And I got that under control. This was long before I had the Good Life Creed that helped me to corral in my thoughts and my objectives, and to manage my emotions. Excuse me, that's so gross, I'm sorry. But that's a really interesting measure that I've never really thought of before. If I could look back and measure how I acted and thought and behaved 2 decades prior. I've only had the Good Life for 4 years. It's wrought some incredible changes, but I was well underway more than before I started that. Okay, I think I've done enough of that. The Feast of Offal, and I refer to that as the Feast of Offal because offal is the product of a butcher's, butchery, right? You're butchering an animal and you've got all the nice chops of meat, and then you've got a pile of waste product of bones and skin and hair and teeth and guts. What do you do with it? You grind it up into sausage and you sell it at a bargain, right? It's the offal, all of the waste. The offal of our life is the waste and byproduct of our efforts of thinking and living that are the stuff that are not the product of our good efforts, not the work product of our days, but the byproducts that if we don't do something with it, it ends up blowing up, spilling out of our mouth through our upset and entering the ears and the eyes of others and hurting them. And I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to do that. So I don't. I find other ways to do it. And contrary to what I was brought up thinking, that if you internalize that stuff, it comes out later. Serenity now, insanity later, as George Costanza's dad would say. It's not like that. You can keep this stuff inside. You can internalize it, and you can express it out in other ways. Part of the way I do it is this daily video that I make. I reason it out. I express it. I say it here. And it's like a little valve, letting the steam off, not by virtue of hot steam, but by a kind of more like a soothing warm mist of thoughts. I don't think I need the book. Let's see. After the Feast of Offal comes distraction. And there's two. This is a twofer. Two things go together. The principle called the distraction, and then the next principle called agency and the great indifference. Let me deal with them in backwards order. Agency and the great indifference refer to agents are you and me. Any thinking creature, any thinking living, it doesn't even really have to be a thinking creature. Anything that's alive is an agent. And the reason I describe it that way is that any agency, any sign of agency, which as far as we know is just restricted to our planet at this point, gives us some hint that there may be larger agency in the universe, maybe a God looking after us. It doesn't even have to be the agent itself. It can be the artifacts of that agent. A cup is an artifact of an agent, right? And a snail shell, on the ground is an artifact of an agent. The bird's nest likewise. Seeing any of those things reminds us of life. It reminds us of agency. It reminds us of sentience. What that contrasts with is what I call the great indifference, which is the emptiness of the universe, the great nothing out there. And the purpose of the story of going alone is the story of my going into wilderness, namely a deep and empty desert, namely a moonscape. I highly recommend the Bristol Mountains in the Mojave Desert. It's got to be, it can't be any desert. You can't go to like the Saguaro Desert or the Sonoran Desert, and hang out by a saguaro cactus, and big cactus, and think I'm going to see the great indifference. You won't see it. There's too much agency and too much artifact of agency. You have to go into the Granite Mountains or the Bristol Mountains, and then way, way, way out there. And then it becomes apparent there ain't no God. We're alone. That's what the indifference is. I call it the great indifference. So contrast that with the agency, and then when we see the great indifference, for a lot of us, we're like, holy crap, I don't want to see that, la, 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 la. And we distract ourselves. So go back to that other principle. We distract ourselves with work and play and home and family and sex and hobbies and sports and church and God. And we can spend our whole life telling ourselves there's purpose, there's agency, there's meaning, there's 10 commandments, and life's all taken care of, and when we're dead there's going to be justice and forever for those that are worthy, and punishment for those who are not. And that's the story, the fairy tale story, basically, that I wish to disabuse myself of. So I went deep into the desert many times. I looked into the great indifference. I saw it, and I extracted out the courage to face it, and to decide, well, if there's no God, and there's no looking after me, and there's no eternity, there's no heaven or hell, I'm on my own, and what have I got? Well, I've got others. I've got my community. I've got my wife. I've got my daughter. I've got my co-workers. I've got my friends. I've got my community. I've got, at this point in my life, at almost age 58, I'm lucky if I've got another 20 summers. I'll make the best of it with that. And now, at this point, I have a creed, the Good Life Creed, my 7 objectives and 32 principles that engage in and help me to better ends. And they do surely work. So that's what distraction and agency and the great indifference is. And I try to tell myself not to spend my life distracting myself, but instead to face the great indifference and to move forward. Okay, what's after that? agency and the great indifference. I have to look it up because I tend to go astray. Oh, here we go. Oh yeah, the best seat in the house. Just simply a reminder, it's not this chair, this is a nice chair, but it's simply a reminder that whatever circumstance I'm in life, to try to make that all right. I want to, not want to be anyone else, or be anywhere else, or be doing anything else, but to be okay here I am, who I am, and what I'm doing. Simple principle. Tough to do, because I'm all the while seeking to improve my circumstance while it's tempting to be satisfied with where I am. It's kind of like doing this thing, right? Okay, the next principle, this is another 3 or 4 that go together. What is it? It's the Restless Man, followed by the Path of Wildness, and then the Great Life Adventure. Yeah, I think that's a 3-fer. The Restless Man is simply a reminder that it is part and parcel of our biology, of our nature, especially if you're a man person, as opposed to a woman person, to be restless, especially in our youth. I believe that is a trick that is part of our biology, to help, a survival trick. Because if we, back in the hunter-gatherer day, if we, especially the menfolk, are restless to, the young menfolk in particular, are restless to go explore new territory, we find new things. We find new game, new resource, clean water, other people to trade with, etc. It's a good thing. It's how we spread out across the planet. It's what made us survive. And if we're scattered on different parts of the landscape and on different continents and across islands, then we have a higher chance of survive should any ecological disaster strike. And we have many records of that in the fossil record of humans almost going extinct in particular areas, or going extinct in certain areas, but surviving elsewhere. So anyway, so I call that the Restless Man. And many of us feel that, especially at a young age. It's like, I want some adventure. I want something in life. The status quo just ain't quite enough. I find that's more so in menfolk, and I think it's because of the nature, again, how our hunter-gatherer passed. The women folk stayed behind typically, and did the gathering and they raised the kids, etc. So they're typically more, to overuse the term, nesters, right? Although there are women that are like that, and this fact seems to bear fruit in the 16, 17 years that I've been on YouTube, then making adventure videos. The vast, overwhelming number of people who've contacted me have been young men in their 20s telling me they're longing for adventure. I can count on maybe 2 hands the number of women who've contacted me. So they're out there, and kudos to them. And kudos to those that want to stay home and nest. That's my wife. She's like that, although she has an adventurous streak too. That's what brought us together. But hers is slightly different. Anyway, the Restless Man. You're not crazy if you feel that restlessness. You're just a human being. So the Restless Man, and then the next principle is called the Path of Wildness. The Path of Wildness is an off-ramp from one station of life on the path into somewhere else. And it leads to the next principle, which is called the Great Life Adventure. The Great Life Adventure is what we get for our endeavor onto the path of wildness. It's the worthwhile end that comes of it. It's the story that we get, and the character we developed and develop as a result of the adventure that we have. I highly, highly recommend it, especially if you are a restless man or a restless woman, and especially if you're young. Do it. Okay, go to college though. Okay, whatever your prospects are, whatever your desires, it doesn't have to be an expensive one. You can get a college education on the cheap, relatively speaking. Do it. It's more than the degree, and it's more. Their opportunities will open up to you, but it's more for the experience of being in that environment and having the showing of many doors, right, and the experience of many people. Once you graduate in your mid-20s, then go have a great life adventure. Just set out, go home, leave your diploma with your parents, say, I'll be back in 5 years. And then around age 30, come back beat, bruised, broken, scarred, and ready for the rest of your life. You'll be glad you did, especially if you're restless, if you feel that restlessness. If you don't do that, if you go straight into a career, straight into starting a family, that restlessness is likely going to haunt you all your life. And you know what? If you tell yourself, I'll do it when I'm 62 years old and retired, good luck with that. It's not going to be the same. You will not be the same. You will have sacrificed your adventurous spirit for the safe and sane, and you are no longer willing to compromise that safe and sane. You'll attempt to find your succor on cruise ships and golf courses, and they will yield a different end. It won't be the same. You are now neither strong enough nor stupid enough. That's the thing. It's a blessing to be stupid and young. It could get you killed, but even that's a good end. You're neither strong enough as an old man or a woman. You're neither stupid enough. You know better now to make the stupid mistakes, and the results aren't the same, because the best adventures come from the misadventures, right? The looking back and the realization of what was gained from the folly that we had precipitated out of our idiocy. You got to do that when you're young, because you need time to recover from that. Okay, the next one, what did I do? Okay, so we did Restless Man, the Path of Wildness. It's easy to find. It's the course of his dream. Leaves blown in the wind, a beast's track through the brush, and the direction of our first inclination. The Great Life Adventure, and then the season, is it the Season of Philosophy next? No, the risk of avoiding risk. This is a simple principle. It simply says that there are two layers of risks in life. Okay, the surface layer, it's not an easy layer. It just simply means it's the one more readily accessible and the one that everyone's going to encourage us for. It's the safe and sane. It's the education, the job, the spouse, the family, the career, the home, and the saving for retirement. Whole institutions are set up for that. Families encourage us. Parents are going to support us. It all works out. But then there's the deep risk of finding oneself. Few people are going to encourage that, because that's risk, that's stupid, that's distraction. It's like, why are you going to spend that 5 years, I said before, having this adventure when you could get a head start on your damn career? I forgot to put that in there. If you do take that adventure from 25 to 30, when you come back, you're going to start at the entry level, where the people that you were with colleges, who you went to college with, who started their career early, they're going to be in their level 2 or level 3. Maybe they'll be your boss when you get hired. You have to live with that. But trust me, you're going to have better stories. Trust me, when those meetings get tough and they're long and droning, and you're midlife, and that person that didn't take the adventure is kind of gazing out the window, longing and wondering what they may have missed. You won't be missing that. You did it. The next is sin, and so to attend to the deep level risk, early, young. Next is sin and damnation. There are 7 sins in my worldview. They're not sins against God. They're sins against good living, and these are falsity, being untrue; credulity, believing things too readily; faith, belief founded on belief, circular; superstition, belief based on believing in nonsense; falsity, credulity, faith, superstition; dogma, belief based on the fact that something is a blessed tradition; authority, belief based on being impressed by what someone has to say, or their authority, or their appearance, or their funny hat; and then what's the last one? Gossip. Again, with gossip, it's a sin. Don't do it. It leads to a damnation. All of the aforementioned seven sins lead to a damnation in the here and now, not in any afterlife, because there is no afterlife. And that comes to the next principle: complete oblivion. If there is no afterlife, there is no God, there's no soul, there's no heaven or hell, there's no justice giver. That means that when we're dead, we're dead. We won't see our loved ones again. We'll have no chance for final reunion. We won't have a chance to make up any with anybody that we died on bad terms with. There's no final reconciliation. And if there's no afterlife and no God, and then there won't be any chance for any final justice. Those that get away with things in life, they get away with things in life. Although they'll be dead, they won't know any better. Anne Frank was never vindicated. Hitler was never punished for his sins, other than the fact that he had to commit suicide. He's not burning in any hell. And if you take some of them right, then it's quite the opposite, right? I mean, Hitler was a Catholic, right? So he could be in paradise, and Anne Frank, being a Jew, By some traditions, she missed the boat altogether and she's burning in hell. So, I mean, just chuck that nonsense, right? I mean, there's no good reason to think any of that's true. They're both dead. They're both gone. They, Anne Frank was an example of the horror show. Hitler was an example of the horror show. Damn it. See, it always makes me say bad words. Then comes the season of philosophy, a time to record what we've learned along the way. Keep a pen and paper ready. Bullseye aim, shooting for the mark, usually missing. The uphill climb, trudge, 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 up we go. Every day, trying my best. Every day, I'm not going to dig a damn hobbit hole in the side of the mountain of life and just live there for the rest of my life. I'm going to keep climbing. I'm going to die on the highest step I can. Turn around and look at that view. Wow. Then comes arena and utility. Life is this arena for the development of our objectives and principles that help us to live a better life. And then nothing is enough. Nothing is enough. A suggestion beyond temperance towards abstinence. We're just not relying, not setting our well-being in things, right? Being able to have our well-being being grounded in our self-control and personal discipline and our recognition of true limits and true opportunities. And then finally, last one is the principle of fun, a reminder to have a good time, a worthwhile, virtuous good time, and to look forward to more good times in the future, plan for them, make them happen, and then to look back and enjoy our remembrance of the good times of the past. To have fun in life. Virtue is important. Having fun and pleasurable time is also very important. What more? Okay, that's it. That's my good life creed. And the last thing I do is I think about the coming day. I did a rare thing. I took the day off from work so I could go help my daughter. So I'm going to finish this up. I'm already uploading the Johnson video that I just did, so I'll upload that, organize that, get that shared out, upload this, go over, read my Bible. It's still in Ezekiel. It's a long book. And then I'll feed my dogs, walk my dogs, clean myself, comb my hair, and then I'll get on the road and go help my daughter and if I can get my daughter's stuff situated, then maybe I can get back and finish at least have half a day of work. I usually do status reports on my Friday and I would like to get that done. We'll see. Taking care of my daughter is first priority, though. All right, thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day. Remember to be safe, but not too safe.